The courtroom was eerily quiet as 5-year-old Lily Harper stepped through the heavy wooden doors, her small hand gripping the leash of Thor, a German shepherd with a jagged scar running along his side. Every eye in the room followed the little girl as she made her way toward the witness stand, her movements hesitant but determined. Judge Marcus Kane, a seasoned man with years of legal experience, leaned forward, slightly observing the child with a measured gaze. He knew that the weight of the entire case rested on her fragile shoulders. Lily was the sole witness to an attempted abduction, a case that could put a dangerous man behind bars for life. But there was one problem. Lily hadn't spoken a single word since the attack. Across the courtroom, Victor Drake sat at the defense table, his expression composed, even smug. A 45-year-old software engineer with an unassuming appearance, Drake had been arrested after an eyewitness placed him at the scene of Lily Seth's attempted abduction. His defense, however, was solid. No physical evidence, no confession, and a traumatized child who couldn't testify. His lawyer had already crafted a strategy that hinged on discrediting the child's ability to identify him. But then, something happened. As Lily settled onto the witness chair, her green eyes met Victor Drake's. Her small fingers trembled as they made a subtle movement, barely noticeable to the untrained eye. It was a silent signal, one she had learned over weeks of therapy. Only two beings in the room caught it: Thor and Judge Kane. Thor's reaction was immediate. The moment Lily's fingers twitched in that silent plea for help, the dog's body went rigid. His ears pricked forward, his muscles coiling like a loaded spring. A low, guttural growl rumbled from deep within his chest. A sound of warning, of recognition. His golden brown eyes locked onto Drake, unwavering and piercing. The reaction sent a ripple of unease through the courtroom. A murmur spread through the spectators, whispers of speculation filling the air. Something about the dog's behavior struck a chord. This wasn't just a well-trained support animal reacting to his handler's distress. This was something deeper, something primal. Judge Kane's hand came down hard on the gavel. The sharp crack echoed like thunder through the room. "This court will take a 15-minute recess," he declared, his voice unusually urgent. Prosecutor Jenna Blake shot him a questioning look, but he didn't meet her eyes. Instead, he glanced at Lily, who clung to Thor like a lifeline. Something significant had just happened, and he needed to understand exactly what it was before the trial proceeded any further. As the courtroom emptied, Kane remained seated, his mind racing. He had seen many things in his years on the bench, but never had a therapy dog reacted with such undeniable certainty. What had Thor recognized? And more importantly, what did that mean for the case? Outside in the hallway, Lily knelt beside Thor, her tiny hands gripping his fur tightly. Her mother, Rachel Harper, bent down beside her, smoothing back the child's curly hair with trembling fingers. "Sweetheart, are you okay?" she whispered. Lily didn't respond. She didn't need to. Her grip on Thor tightened, her small frame pressing into his side. Jack Monroe, the lead investigator on the case, watched from a few steps away. A grizzled FBI agent with decades of experience, Monroe had a gut instinct that had served him well over the years. And right now his gut told him that whatever just happened in that courtroom was a game changer. He stepped closer to Judge Kane. "Something spooked that dog," he murmured, his voice low. "I'd bet my badge he recognizes Drake from somewhere." Kane exhaled slowly, his sharp blue eyes narrowing. "Then we need to find out where." Meanwhile, inside the defense private room, Victor Drake sat across from his attorney, Michael Graves. The moment they were alone, the smug confidence on Drake's face twisted into something else. Something colder. His fingers drummed against the table as he replayed the moment in his mind. The girl hadn't spoken, but the dog had reacted. "She knows," Drake muttered under his breath. Graves raised an eyebrow. "What?" Drake forced a small smile. "Nothing." But his mind was already racing. That damn dog. He hadn't considered the animal would be a problem. But now he realized Thor might be the key to unraveling everything. Before the terror that stole her voice, Lily Harper was a vibrant chatterbox of a child. At 5 years old, she was the kind of girl who filled a room with endless stories, Her bright blue eyes gleamed with curiosity and mischief. She loved fairy tales, stuffed animals, and the way her mother read bedtime stories with different voices for each character. She had never known fear. Until that fateful afternoon, it had been a perfect spring day. The kind where the scent of blooming flowers drifted through the air and the warm sun painted golden streaks across the backyard. Rachel Harper had been watching her daughter from the kitchen window, a smile tugging at the corner of her lips as Lily twirled in the yard, her pink dress flaring like a dancer. David Harper was due home in a few hours, and she had been debating whether to start dinner or wait for him. It should have been an ordinary afternoon. It should have been safe. At 3:42 p.m., Rachel's phone rang. It was her sister calling from out of state, and she stepped inside for what she thought would be a quick conversation. 4 minutes. That was all it took. When she returned to the yard, the gate stood ajar. A wave of cold terror shot through her veins. Her breath caught in her throat as she scanned the space where her daughter had been. Lily was still there, but she wasn't alone. A black van idled near the curb, its side door slightly open. A man knelt beside Lily, his smile unnervingly warm. "I have puppies in my van," he was saying, his voice smooth, practiced. "Special ones. They need a little girl to take care of them. Would you like to see?" Rachel Spup's world seemed to slow. Her instincts screamed before her mind could process what was happening. Her voice sliced through the air. "Lily!" The man's head snapped up, his smile vanished, replaced by something sharp and calculating. In an instant he grabbed Lily's arm. Lily froze. She didn't scream. She didn't fight. She only stared at him with wide, unblinking eyes, as if some deep-rooted fear had locked her in place. Across the street, Martha Jenkins, a retired nurse walking her terrier, saw everything unfold. Her voice, weathered with age, but strong with conviction, rang out, "Hey, get away from that child!" The man hesitated. His grip loosened for a fraction of a second. That was all it took. Lily yanked her arm free and bolted toward her mother. Rachel scooped her daughter into her arms, just as the van's engine roared. The tires screamed against the pavement as the vehicle sped away, leaving black streaks of rubber on the road. Rachel clutched Lily tightly, her heart pounding against her ribs. Lily didn't cry. She didn't say a word. She only buried her face into her mother's shoulder and trembled. The police arrived within minutes. Detective Jack Monroe, a seasoned investigator from the FBI's Child Abduction Task Force, took immediate control of the scene. His graying hair and sharp brown eyes spoke of years spent chasing shadows, searching for missing children who were often never found. He had seen this pattern before, too many times. "He fits the profile," Monroe muttered, flipping through a worn notebook. 4 children have disappeared in the last 18 months. All approached near their homes. All lured by promises of puppies. His partner, Agent Lisa Grant, knelt beside Lily, her voice gentle but firm. "Sweetheart, do you remember what the man looked like?" Silence. Rachel brushed Lily's hair back, her hands trembling. "Honey, it's okay. You're safe now. Can you tell the nice officer what he looked like?" Lily's small hands gripped her mother's sweater tightly, but she didn't speak. She didn't nod. She didn't shake her head. It was as if someone had flipped a switch, shutting her voice off completely. "She hasn't said a word since I picked her up," Rachel whispered, fear creeping into her voice. "She just won. Talk." Agent Grant exchanged a look with Monroe. "Selective mutism," she murmured. "A trauma response." Monroe sighed, rubbing his temple. Without a statement, they didn't have much. The description was vague. A man, a black van. It could be anyone. Martha Jenkins, who had witnessed the abduction attempt, stepped forward. "I got part of the license plate," she said firmly. "The first 3 letters. YKZ. Monroe's gaze snapped to her. "That's something." Rachel, still clutching Lily, felt a surge of helplessness. Her daughter, once so full of life, had retreated into herself, and in the days that followed, it only got worse. Lily stopped playing. She stopped drawing. She refused to leave the house, flinching at the sight of passing cars. She barely slept, and when she did, her nights were filled with silent nightmares. Her small body thrashed against invisible threats. Her screams never came, only gasps of terror that woke her parents in the dead of night. Rachel and David tried everything. Storytime favorite foods, her beloved stuffed bunny. Nothing worked. The child they knew was slipping further and further away. One evening, Rachel sat across from David at the kitchen table, her eyes hollow from exhaustion. The therapist recommended a support animal, she said quietly. A therapy dog. David ran a tired hand through his hair. You really think that'll help? I don't know, Rachel admitted. But I'm willing to try anything. Neither of them could have known how much that decision would change everything. Because while Lily had lost her voice, there was someone who could still hear her, and his name was Thor. The air inside Dr. Laura Bennett's Animal Rehabilitation Center was thick, with the scent of antiseptic and the earthy musk of fur. The room was quiet, except for the rhythmic ticking of the clock and the occasional scratch of claws against the tiled floor. On a large orthopedic bed near the window, a German shepherd lay still, his deep brown eyes tracking every movement with quiet intensity. His name was Thor. Once he had been one of the finest canine officers in the city class police force, a dog whose instincts and training had saved lives, but now he bore the scars of sacrifice. One particularly jagged mark running down his right flank, a permanent reminder of the night that ended his career. 3 years ago, during a raid to rescue a kidnapped child, Thor had lunged at an armed suspect, without hesitation. The man had slashed at him with a knife meant for an officer, cutting deep into his flesh. Thor had subdued the suspect, even as blood darkened his fur, but in the months that followed, the injury never fully healed. His mobility was affected, and the department, strapped for funds, made the difficult decision to retire him. He had been placed on a euthanasia list, deemed unfit for service. That was before Laura stepped in. Dr. Bennett had been running the therapy animal program for years, specializing in cases where animals could help trauma survivors. When she heard about Thor's case, she fought to adopt him, convinced that his sharp mind and unwavering loyalty still had value. And now she was about to test that belief. Rachel Harper sat nervously in a chair, her fingers gripping the fabric of her skirt. Lily stood behind her, peeking out from behind her mother's shoulder. The little girl had refused to speak since the incident 2 weeks ago, and though she had attended therapy, nothing had coaxed a word from her. Laura knelt to Lily's level, her voice gentle. Hi Lily, my name is Laura. I work with very special dogs. Dogs that help kids who have been through scary things. Lily said nothing. Her green eyes flickered to the large German shepherd a few feet away. Thor sat patiently. His ears perked forward, but he didn't move toward her. He simply watched, his presence steady and unthreatening. Would you like to meet him? Laura asked. Lily didn't answer, but she didn't run either. That was a start. Rachel smoothed her daughter Smew's hair. He's a very nice dog, sweetheart. He used to be a police dog, just like the ones in your storybooks. Laura gestured to Thor and gave a quiet command. Stay. The German shepherd didn't so much as twitch. Laura turned back to Lily. You don't have to come close if you don't want to. Thor will wait right here. But if you feel ready, you can put out your hand, and he'll come to you. Lily hesitated for long moments. She remained frozen in place. Then, inch by inch, she stepped out from behind her mother. Her tiny hand lifted, hesitant but deliberate. Thor remained still, waiting for the final cue. When Laura nodded, he slowly lowered his head and took a careful step forward, then another, and another. The moment his warm breath touched Lily's palm, something shifted. Lily's fingers curled slightly, brushing through the dog's thick fur. The connection was made. Rachel gasped, softly pressing a hand to her mouth. It was the first time Lily had reached out to anything or anyone since the attack. Tears welled in Rachel's eyes as she whispered, "Oh baby." Lily's small fingers burrowed deeper into Thor's fur, gripping him as if he were the only solid thing in a world that had turned terrifyingly uncertain. Laura smiled. That's a good girl, Lily. Thor likes you. The child said nothing, but she didn't let go. Over the next few weeks, Thor and Lily became inseparable. At home, she would sit beside him for hours, her tiny hands tracing the scar along his side. When nightmares woke her in the middle of the night, it was Thor's steady heartbeat that calmed her. Though she still refused to speak, she began drawing again. Simple crayon pictures of a girl and a dog standing together against shadowy figures. One afternoon, while sitting on the floor of Laura's office, Lily was watching Thor perform a simple trick when something remarkable happened. "Good boy," she whispered. The words were so soft that for a moment, Rachel thought she had imagined them. But when she turned, she saw Lily staring at Thor, her lips slightly parted in wonder, as if she too had surprised herself. Tears filled Rachel's eyes. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Laura placed a gentle hand on Rachel's arm. "She trusts him," she murmured. "Sometimes trust is the first step toward finding your voice again." Rachel squeezed her hand. "Then we'll follow wherever that trust leads," and it would lead them somewhere they never expected. To a courtroom where a monster would finally be unmasked. As the courtroom buzzed with tension, Judge Marcus Kane leaned forward, his sharp gaze fixed on Thor. The German Shepherd's reaction had been undeniable. A primal recognition that sent chills through everyone present. Victor Drake, the defendant, sat rigid at the defense table, his earlier confidence crumbling into a thin veneer of control. "What is going on here?" Michael Graves, Drake's attorney, demanded, his voice rising in frustration. "This dog's behavior is prejudicial and has no place in these proceedings." Prosecutor Jenna Blake stepped forward, her tone measured but firm. "Your Honor, we believe this animal's instincts may hold critical evidence. If permitted, we'd like to explore why Thor reacted so strongly to my client." Judge Kane raised a hand, silencing both sides. His eyes narrowed as he studied Drake, who was now gripping the edge of the table so tightly his knuckles turned white. "Mr. Drake," the judge said evenly, "have you encountered this dog before?" The room fell silent. All eyes turned to Drake, whose composure faltered for the first time. He hesitated, glancing briefly at Thor before forcing a tight-lipped smile. "No, Your Honor, I've never seen that dog in my life." But Judge Kane wasn't convinced. Turning to Detective Jack Monroe, he asked, "Detective, does this dog have any prior connection to the defendant?" Monroe shook his head. "Not that we were aware of, Your Honor, however." He paused, exchanging a glance with Jenna Blake. "We suspect there might be more to it." Thor's reactions suggest familiarity, perhaps from an incident involving Mr. Drake in the past. Graves shot up from his seat. "Speculation. This is pure conjecture and it has no basis in fact." Jenna countered quickly. "Benny, Honor." "Your Honor, given the gravity of this case, we request permission to investigate further. There may be evidence linking Mr. Drake to Thor's previous service record." The judge tapped his gavel lightly, considering. Finally, he nodded. "Very well. Court will reconvene tomorrow morning. In the meantime, the prosecution is granted 24 hours to pursue this lead." Early the next morning, Monroe and his team set out for a remote cabin located deep in the northern woods. Soil samples found in Drake's van had led them to this secluded spot, and Thor accompanied them, his presence a guiding force. As they approached the cabin, the air grew heavy with unease. Thor was the first to react. His ears perked up, his muscles coiled, and a low growl rumbled in his chest. "He knows something is here," Monroe muttered, signaling the others to proceed cautiously. Inside the cabin appeared abandoned. Dusty furniture, empty cans stacked in a corner. But something felt off. Monroe inspected the wooden floor near the back wall, noticing an unnatural seam. With swift precision, officers pried the boards loose, revealing a narrow staircase spiraling down into darkness. Descending into the basement, the team uncovered a chilling scene. Children's belongings scattered across the damp floor, old toys, small shoes, and in the farthest corner, chained but alive, an 8-year-old girl named Emma Sullivan. She had been missing for 6 months. Emma clung to Monroe as he unlocked her chains, tears streaming down her gaunt face. "Help!" she whispered hoarsely, her voice barely audible. Thor whined softly, pressing closer, as if sensing the depth of her suffering. Back at the courthouse, the discovery of Emma became a turning point. Linked by DNA evidence and tire tracks matching Drake's vehicle, the prosecution now had a survivor willing to testify. But even as the case against Drake strengthened, one question lingered. How did Thor recognize him? When court resumed, the atmosphere was electric. Emma's testimony painted a harrowing picture of captivity, confirming Drake's involvement in multiple abductions. Yet it was Thor who delivered the final blow. As Drake sat flustered at the defense table, the German Shepherd rose to his feet. His golden brown eyes locked onto the defendant, unwavering and piercing. A deep growl vibrated through the room, sending a ripple of shock through the gallery. Drake flinched, visibly, sweat beading on his forehead. For the first time, his arrogance shattered completely. Leaning toward his attorney, he muttered urgently, "I want to change my plea." Gasps erupted throughout the courtroom. Judge Kane's expression darkened. "Mr. Drake, are you stating that you wish to plead guilty?" Drake exhaled shakily, his voice barely above a whisper. "Yes." With those two words, the trial came to an abrupt end. Victor Drake was sentenced to life in prison without parole. His fate sealed not just by human witnesses, but by the unyielding loyalty of a dog who refused to let evil go unpunished. In the days following the sentencing, Lily began to find her voice again. Holding Thor's face in her small hands, she whispered, "Thank you." Her parents wept, knowing their daughter was finally healing. For Thor, the bond with Lily had become a testament to resilience. A reminder that even in the darkest moments, some connections are unbreakable. Together they proved that courage comes in many forms, and sometimes, the bravest heroes walk on four legs. In the weeks following Richard Drake's conviction, life began to shift for Lily Harper and her family. The courtroom victory had been a turning point, not just legally, but emotionally. For the first time in months, there was a sense of safety, of closure. Drake's guilty plea meant he would never harm another child again, and while justice had been served, the real healing was only beginning. Lily's progress with Thor became the foundation of her recovery. What started as tentative steps toward trust blossomed into something profound. A bond so strong it seemed unbreakable. Thor wasn't just a therapy dog. He was Lily's anchor, her confidant, her protector. And now she was ready to take the next step. One crisp autumn morning, Lily stood at the edge of their backyard, clutching Thor's leash tightly. Her green eyes sparkled with determination as she looked up at her mother, Rachel. "I want to try," she said softly, her voice still fragile but clear. It was the most she'd spoken since the attack. Rachel knelt beside her, tears glistening in her eyes. "Are you sure, sweetheart?" Lily nodded, her small hand tightening around the leash. She glanced at Thor, who sat patiently beside her, his golden brown eyes watching her every move. He seemed to understand what this moment meant for her. Slowly, Lily loosened her grip on the leash. "Okay, Thor," she whispered. "Stay here." Thor didn't budge. He remained perfectly still, his presence grounding her even from a distance. Lily took one hesitant step forward, then another, until she reached the oak tree at the far end of the yard. She turned back to look at her parents, who were watching with bated breath, and smiled. A small, shy smile, but a smile nonetheless. For Rachel and David it felt like a miracle. Their daughter, once frozen by fear, was reclaiming her world one step at a time. Thor trotted over to her, wagging his tail proudly, and Lily threw her arms around his neck. "Good boy," she murmured, her voice steadier now. "You re my hero." The impact of Lily and Thor's story extended far beyond their household. News of the trial spread quickly, capturing national attention. People were moved not just by the harrowing details of the case, but by the courage of a little girl and the loyalty of a dog who refused to give up on her. Social media platforms lit up with hashtags like Unbreakable Bonds and Heroes on Four Legs, celebrating the unlikely duo who had brought a predator to justice. Local communities rallied around the Harpers, offering support in ways both big big and small. Neighbors organized fundraisers to help cover medical expenses for Thor's ongoing care, recognizing that his role in the case had been nothing short of heroic. Schools began incorporating stories about service animals into their curriculums, teaching children about empathy, resilience, and the power of unconditional love. But perhaps the most significant change came within the legal system itself. Judge Marcus Kane, inspired by the pivotal role Thor played in the trial, spearheaded an initiative to establish clearer guidelines for the use of therapy animals in courtrooms. This isn't just about comfort, he explained during a press conference. These animals can provide insights that humans might miss. They are witnesses in their own right. The proposal gained traction, sparking discussions across the country. Advocacy groups for trauma survivors hailed it as a landmark decision, one that could transform how vulnerable individuals navigated the judicial process. Thor, in his quiet way, had become a symbol of hope. A reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is always someone willing to stand by your side. As the seasons changed, so did Lily and Thor's routine. The pair spent countless hours exploring the woods behind their home, retracing paths they hadn't dared walk since before the attack. Each outing was a testament to their resilience, a celebration of the freedom they had fought so hard to reclaim. Thor's instincts remained sharp, his ears perking at the slightest rustle in the leaves, but his demeanor was calm, almost content. He knew his job wasn't done yet. He would protect Lily for as long as he lived. Back at Dr. Laura Bennett's rehabilitation center, Thor's legacy inspired new opportunities for other retired working dogs. Laura launched a program specifically designed to pair these loyal companions with children recovering from trauma. Thor showed us what care is possible, she told reporters during an interview. These dogs may no longer serve in traditional roles, but their hearts are still full of purpose. They have so much more to give. Lily visited the center, often eager to meet the new arrivals and share her story. She spoke haltingly at first, her words laced with emotion, but with each visit her confidence grew. Watching her interact with the dogs, Rachel marveled at the transformation. "She's finding her voice again," she told David one evening. "And it so's because of him." Thor, ever the steadfast companion, seemed to understand the weight of his influence. Whether lounging at Lily's feet or guiding her through moments of anxiety, he embodied the kind of unwavering devotion that transcends species. To Lily, he was more than a dog. He was family. Years later, when Lily was old enough to reflect on the events that shaped her childhood, she wrote a letter. It wasn't addressed to anyone in particular, but rather to the memory of the bond she shared with Thor. By then the German Shepherd had passed away, his body finally succumbing to age and injury. But his spirit lingered. In the rustling leaves, in the laughter of children playing freely, in the quiet strength that Lily carried within her. "I'll never forget the day I found my voice," she wrote. "It wasn't just mine. It belonged to Thor too. He taught me that bravery isn't about being fearless. It's less about standing up anyway, even when you're scared. Even when the world feels like it's falling apart." Her words resonated deeply, not just with those who remembered the trial, but with anyone who had ever been touched by the unconditional love of an animal. Thor's name became synonymous with loyalty. His story a beacon of hope for families facing unimaginable challenges. On a hill overlooking the Harper property, a simple stone marked Thor's final resting place. Engraved upon it were 3 words: "Forever, our hero." Every spring, wildflowers bloomed around the marker, painting the landscape in vibrant hues. To Lily, they were a reminder that some bonds endure beyond lifetimes, that love, like nature, has a way of renewing itself. And so, under the watchful skies of Pine Hollow, the tale of a little girl and her dog continued to inspire generations. Together they proved that even in the face of darkness, light could prevail. All it took was 2 broken souls willing to heal, and a promise to never let go. The trial of Richard Drake and the events surrounding it sent ripples far beyond the courtroom. News outlets across the country picked up the story, highlighting not only the harrowing details of the case, but also the extraordinary bond between Lily Harper and her therapy dog Thor. Social media platforms lit up with hashtags like Unbreakable Bonds and Heroes on Four Legs, celebrating the unlikely duo who had brought a predator to justice. Local communities rallied around the Harpers, offering support in ways both big and small. Neighbors organized fundraisers to help cover medical expenses for Thor's ongoing care, recognizing that his role in the case had been nothing short of heroic. Schools began incorporating stories about service animals into their curriculums, teaching children about empathy, resilience, and the power of unconditional love. But perhaps the most significant change came within the legal system itself. Judge Marcus Kane, inspired by the pivotal role Thor played in the trial, spearheaded an initiative to establish clearer guidelines for the use of therapy animals in courtrooms. This isn't just about comfort, he explained during a press conference. These animals can provide insights that humans might miss. They are witnesses in their own right. The proposal gained traction, sparking discussions across the country. Advocacy groups for trauma survivors hailed it as a landmark decision, one that could transform how vulnerable individuals navigated the judicial process. Thor, in his quiet way, had become a symbol of hope. A reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is always someone willing to stand by your side. As the seasons changed, so did Lily and Thor's routine. The pair spent countless hours exploring the woods behind their home, retracing paths they hadn't dared walk since before the attack. Each outing was a testament to their resilience, a celebration of the freedom they had fought so hard to reclaim. Thor's instincts remained sharp, his ears perking at the slightest rustle in the leaves. But his demeanor was calm, almost content. He knew his job wasn't done yet. He would protect Lily for as long as he lived. Back at Dr. Laura Bennett's rehabilitation center, Thor's legacy inspired new opportunities for other retired working dogs. Laura launched a program specifically designed to pair these loyal companions with children recovering from trauma. Thor showed us what's possible, she told reporters during an interview. These dogs may no longer serve in traditional roles, but their hearts are still full of purpose. They have so much more to give. Lily visited the center, often eager to meet the new arrivals and share her story. She spoke haltingly at first, her words laced with emotion, but with each visit her confidence grew. Watching her interact with the dogs, Rachel marveled at the transformation. She's finding her voice again, she told David one evening. And it's Spain's because of him. Thor, ever the steadfast companion, seemed to understand the weight of his influence. Whether lounging at Lily's feet, or guiding her through moments of anxiety, he embodied the kind of unwavering devotion that transcends species. To Lily, he was more than a dog. He was family. Years later, when Lily was old enough to reflect on the events that shaped her childhood, she wrote a letter. It wasn't addressed to anyone in particular, but rather to the memory of the bond she shared with Thor. By then, the German Shepherd had passed away, his body finally succumbing to age and injury. But his spirit lingered, in the rustling leaves, in the laughter of children playing freely, in the quiet strength that Lily carried within her. I'll never forget the day I found my voice, she wrote. It wasn't just mine. It belonged to Thor too. He taught me that bravery isn't about being fearless. It's about standing up anyway, even when you're scared. Even when the world feels like it's falling apart. Her words resonated deeply, not just with those who remembered the trial, but with anyone who had ever been touched by the unconditional love of an animal. Thor's name became synonymous with loyalty. His story a beacon of hope for families facing unimaginable challenges. On a hill overlooking the Harper property, a simple stone marked Thor's final resting place. Engraved upon it were 3 words: "Forever, our hero." Every spring, wildflowers bloomed around the marker, painting the landscape in vibrant hues. To Lily, they were a reminder that some bonds endure beyond lifetimes, that love, like nature, has a way of renewing itself. And so, under the watchful skies of Pine Hollow, the tale of a little girl and her dog continued to inspire generations. Together, they proved that even in the face of darkness, light could prevail. All it took was 2 broken souls willing to heal, and a promise to never let go. The ripple effect of Lily and Thor's story expanded further, as advocacy groups pushed for reforms in how trauma survivors were supported in legal settings. Inspired by Judge Kane's initiative, several states began implementing pilot programs to incorporate therapy animals into courtrooms. These programs not only helped victims feel safer, but also highlighted the unique abilities of animals to detect truth and provide comfort in high-stress environments. Lily herself became an advocate, speaking at conferences and sharing her journey with audiences across the country. Her speeches were simple yet powerful, reminding people that healing takes time, and sometimes it takes the unconditional love of a loyal companion to guide the way. By the time Lily reached adulthood, the world had changed in subtle but meaningful ways. Therapy animals were no longer seen as novelties, but as integral parts of recovery and justice systems. Children who had once been afraid to speak found their voices with the help of dogs like Thor. Families torn apart by tragedy discovered solace in the bonds forged between humans and animals. Lily eventually adopted a rescue dog of her own, naming him Max. Though he wasn't a trained therapy animal, he carried the same unwavering devotion that Thor had shown her years ago. Together they visited schools, hospitals, and shelters, spreading joy and reminding others that even in the darkest times, hope could be found in the wag of a tail or the nuzzle of a furry friend. Decades later, Pine Hollow remained a place of healing and renewal. The wildflowers that bloomed each spring around Thor's grave became a symbol of resilience, a reminder that life continues even after loss. Visitors often left notes or small tokens at the site, thanking Thor for inspiring them to keep going when the road seemed impossible. Lily's legacy endured through the countless lives touched by her story. She had proven that courage isn't about facing fear alone. It's about leaning on those who love you, whether they walk on 2 legs or 4, and in doing so, she ensured that Thor's memory would live forever, etched into the hearts of all who heard their tale. Under the vast open skies of Pine Hollow, where the wind carried whispers of gratitude and renewal, Lily and Thor's story became timeless, a testament to the enduring power of love, loyalty, and the unbreakable bonds that connect us all. Thank you for being part of this journey. If Thor and Lily's story touched your heart, please share it. Someone out there needs a little more hope today. Subscribe to more stories of loyalty, courage, and healing. And in the comments, tell us, who is your hero? Let's keep the echoes of loyalty alive together, paw. Because some heroes never leave us. They just leave footprints on our hearts.